The golden morning sunlight poured through the towering windows of Ashcroft Financial Tower as employees hurried into one of the city's most powerful corporate headquarters. Luxury cars lined the executive entrance while cameras waited outside for the arrival of CEO Charlotte Ashcroft, the youngest woman ever to lead her family's billion-dollar company. But on this particular morning, Charlotte wasn't thinking about board meetings or investors. Her attention was fixed on a humble single father helping his little son pick up scattered schoolbooks after they accidentally fell onto the sidewalk. His worn clothes, old pickup truck, and gentle smile stood in sharp contrast to the glamorous world she had always known. Before Charlotte could introduce herself, her mother stepped out of the limousine, looked at the man with obvious disapproval, and firmly warned her daughter never to waste her future chasing a poor single father. Charlotte reluctantly walked away, unaware that the quiet man she had just met carried a secret powerful enough to transform everything her family believed about wealth, success, and love. If you believe true character is worth more than money, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories filled with hope and inspiration. The single father was named Julian Mercer. 4 years earlier, he had lost his beloved wife, Naomi, after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old son, Oliver, alone. Julian earned a simple living repairing community libraries, schools, and historic buildings. Every afternoon after work, he picked Oliver up from school, helped with homework, and spent evenings reading stories instead of attending expensive social events. To strangers, he appeared to be an ordinary craftsman living a modest life. Yet behind his quiet routine lay a history no one could have imagined. Charlotte Ashcroft had grown up surrounded by privilege, but not by warmth. Her mother, Eleanor Ashcroft, believed reputation mattered more than happiness and expected her daughter to marry someone from an equally powerful family. Every friendship, every business decision, and every public appearance was carefully managed to protect the Ashcroft name. Although Charlotte respected her mother's sacrifices, she secretly longed for a life where people valued honesty more than social status. Over the following weeks, Charlotte continued seeing Julian in unexpected places. Sometimes he volunteered at Oliver's school repairing broken desks. Other days he helped elderly neighbors fix damaged fences without accepting payment. No matter where they crossed paths, Julian remained kind, humble, and completely unaware of Charlotte's growing admiration. Unlike the wealthy businessmen constantly competing for her attention, he never asked about her career, family fortune, or influence. One bright Saturday morning, Charlotte secretly visited a community center where Julian spent weekends restoring children's books damaged by floods and fires. She watched as Oliver proudly helped his father glue loose pages back together while laughing together under the warm sunlight. The simple happiness between father and son touched Charlotte more deeply than any luxurious gala she had ever attended. When Eleanor discovered where her daughter had been spending her weekends, she became furious. She insisted that Charlotte immediately end all contact with Julian. She reminded her that powerful families did not build futures with struggling single fathers. Charlotte tried explaining that Julian possessed qualities money could never buy, but her mother refused to listen. She believed compassion was admirable only until it threatened family prestige. That same afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived at Julian's small workshop carrying an old wooden chest. The elderly man introduced himself as the executor of Julian's late grandfather's estate. Inside the chest were faded journals, legal documents, and ownership records proving something astonishing. Decades earlier, Julian's grandfather had quietly founded one of the country's largest sustainable construction cooperatives before anonymously transferring ownership into a private trust designed to protect workers instead of shareholders. According to the trust, Julian had become its sole guardian upon his grandfather's passing. The cooperative now quietly supplied sustainable building materials to hundreds of major developments across the nation, including Ashcroft Financial Tower itself. Charlotte and her mother had spent years believing Julian was simply a poor craftsman. Neither of them knew that every prestigious Ashcroft project depended upon materials provided by the family legacy Julian had never publicly claimed. The following bright morning, warm sunlight streamed through the massive windows of Ashcroft Financial Tower as Charlotte Ashcroft sat silently in her executive office, unable to stop thinking about Julian Mercer. The documents her legal department had verified the previous evening still lay open on her desk. Every page confirmed the unbelievable truth. The quiet single father everyone believed was barely making ends meet was, in fact, the legal guardian of Mercer Heritage Cooperative, the organization supplying environmentally advanced construction materials to hundreds of the nation's largest projects, including every major Ashcroft development completed during the past decade. Charlotte was stunned. Julian had never mentioned wealth. He had never tried to impress her. He had never even hinted at the extraordinary influence he quietly possessed. Meanwhile, Eleanor Ashcroft reacted very differently. Embarrassed by her earlier judgment, she convinced herself Julian had deliberately hidden his identity to deceive the family. Without speaking to him directly, she ordered investigators to examine every detail of his background. The results surprised everyone. The investigators found no hidden scandals, no luxury homes, no secret yachts, no offshore accounts. Instead, they discovered that nearly every dividend Julian received from the cooperative had been redirected into children's hospitals, scholarship funds, veterans housing, and community rebuilding programs after natural disasters. He personally continued living in the same modest house where his late wife had raised Oliver. He still drove the same old pickup truck. And every morning, he still packed homemade lunches for his son before walking him to school. Charlotte quietly realized something profound. Julian had never pretended to be humble. He simply was. That afternoon, Ashcroft Financial unexpectedly faced a serious crisis. One of its largest international suppliers suddenly declared bankruptcy. Construction on multiple billion-dollar projects risked shutting down within days. Board members panicked. Share prices began falling. Investors demanded immediate answers. Then Charlotte received an unexpected phone call. It was Julian. Calmly, he explained that Mercer Heritage Cooperative could temporarily increase production and supply every missing shipment. He refused to raise prices. He refused emergency bonuses. His only request was simple: protect the jobs of ordinary construction workers whose families depended upon those projects. Charlotte immediately accepted. Within 48 hours, hundreds of trucks carrying Mercer materials arrived across the country. Projects resumed. Thousands of employees kept their jobs. Financial analysts praised Ashcroft's quick recovery. Only Charlotte knew. The company had been saved by the very man her mother once dismissed because of an old pickup truck. Watching television coverage that evening, Eleanor finally understood the depth of her mistake. She had spent years believing wealth was measured by appearance. Julian had quietly proven that true greatness is measured by generosity. The next morning, Eleanor made a decision that surprised even Charlotte. She asked her daughter to arrange one private meeting with Julian. Not as a CEO. Not as a business partner. But as a mother, who desperately wanted the chance to apologize. The warm morning sunlight bathed the peaceful gardens of Mercer Heritage Cooperative as employees, local families, and business leaders gathered for the annual Community Builders celebration. Children laughed as they played beneath tall oak trees, volunteers prepared meals for elderly guests, and hundreds of workers proudly stood beside the projects they had helped create. It was nothing like the glamorous corporate events Charlotte Ashcroft had attended all her life. There were no flashing cameras or extravagant decorations. There was only gratitude, humility, and genuine joy. Eleanor Ashcroft arrived quietly beside her daughter. For the first time in decades, she wore no designer jewelry and requested no special treatment. She slowly walked toward Julian Mercer. Before anyone could speak, she sincerely apologized. With tears in her eyes, Eleanor admitted that she had judged him by his old pickup truck instead of the values he carried in his heart. She confessed that she believed success could only be recognized through wealth and appearance, never imagining that the richest man she would ever meet would choose to live so simply. Julian smiled gently. He accepted her apology without hesitation. He explained that holding onto resentment would only teach Oliver the wrong lesson. His late wife had always believed forgiveness heals both the person asking for it and the person giving it. Those words filled the entire gathering with quiet emotion. Charlotte watched the conversation with tears of relief. The wall that had separated her family from true happiness had finally begun to disappear. Later that afternoon, Julian invited Charlotte and Eleanor to tour the cooperative's headquarters. Instead of luxurious executive offices, they found open workshops where engineers worked beside carpenters, welders, architects, and apprentices. Every employee shared in the company's profits. Every worker's child received educational support. No executive earned bonuses until every employee received fair wages. Charlotte finally understood why Mercer Heritage had become one of the most respected organizations in the country. Its greatest investment had never been buildings. It had always been people. Months later, Ashcroft Financial and Mercer Heritage announced a historic partnership focused on affordable housing, schools, hospitals, and community rebuilding projects. Thousands of new jobs were created. Entire neighborhoods began transforming. Business magazines praised the financial success of the partnership. Communities praised something much greater: its compassion. Over time, Charlotte and Julian's friendship quietly blossomed into love. It was never built on wealth. It was built on mutual respect, shared values, and the desire to serve others. Oliver welcomed Charlotte into his life with open arms, and she loved him not because she wanted to impress anyone, but because she genuinely cared for the little boy who reminded everyone that family is created through love, not appearances. One beautiful spring morning, Julian arrived at a community event in the same old pickup truck. Charlotte laughed and climbed into the passenger seat wearing simple jeans instead of an expensive business suit. Reporters asked why one of the country's most successful couples still drove such an ordinary vehicle. Julian smiled. He answered that the truck had carried his family through their hardest years. It reminded them every day that gratitude is worth more than luxury. Charlotte squeezed his hand and quietly added that she had once searched for greatness in expensive places. Now she knew. She had found it sitting behind the wheel of an old pickup. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes true love begins with respect, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories about hope, family, and second chances. Special request: please comment, character will always outshine wealth. As the golden afternoon sunlight stretched across the community gardens, Julian, Charlotte, Oliver, and Eleanor stood together watching families laugh, children play, and workers celebrate another successful year. In that peaceful moment, everyone understood the same timeless truth. The greatest fortune in life is never measured by the size of your bank account. It is measured by the kindness you leave in the hearts of others.